All right, we're ready for our word problem of the day. So go ahead and set your word problem up and then we'll get started. So today's problem is a double part. So we're going to do the first one and then we're actually going to add to it. So we're going to make it a little more difficult for you. Here we go. It says it rained 7 days in March and the same number of days in April. How many days did it rain in both months? Pretty tricky, right? I didn't give you both numbers this time. So let's take a look at what we do have. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write cubs on the side here. So I'm going to get my cubs written. And I know I need to circle my numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and circle the 7. But what's the other number that I have to circle? There isn't one, is there? But what I do see is a word that helps me. It says the same number. Do you see it? The same number of days in April. Well, what does that mean? So that means that there were 7 in March. So it has to be the same in April. So guess what? Yes, there's 7 in April. So I want you to write down 7 and 7 someplace on your board. Just someplace tiny so you know what numbers that you're using. Okay? So then what we're going to do is we're going to cross off our C. Now, we need to underline our word that helps us. I'm going to go into our question. It says, how many days did it rain in both months? We're going to underline the word both because that says that we're not just looking at March. We're not just looking at April. We're looking at them together. So we can cross off the U. Now I'm going to box my question. So it's the one that has the capital and the question mark at the end. And now I'm going to go ahead and get started solving this problem. Now, in your mind, you should already know the answer because we're so good at those doubles facts. So I know that it rained 7 days in March. So go ahead and make your 7 and then go ahead and put a box around it. Remember, 5 on top, 2 on the bottom because we can't have more than 5 on the top in a 10 frame, right? Now, once you have your 7 done, we have to draw 7 more for April because remember it said it was the same number. So what we're going to do is we're going to use X's for those. So if you'll notice, we only have room for 3 here. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3 and continue out here. 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's take a look at what we have. I have 10 in my 10 frame plus 4 on the outside, which gives us 14. Hopefully you agree with that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go down to our number bond. We know we have March, M for March, A for April. And we want to know how many days. We're going to use a D for days. So, we know we had 7 here and 7 here because they were both the same number. We're going to punch 7, count up 7. Ready? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We came up with 14, which again matches up here. Make sense? And our number sentence is exactly that. 7 plus 7 equals 14. Put a box around it. Put it in the box. And lastly, how many days did it rain? We're going to say it rained 14, put a box around it, days. And then we're going to go ahead and put the 14 in the box. Make sense? Now, when you get finished with that, what I want you to do is I want you to erase just about everything. I'm going to kind of show you what you're going to erase. I want you to erase this part here, this part here, this part here, and then we're going to erase in the middle. Basically, the only thing we're going to keep is our drawing, okay? And we'll go ahead and erase this and draw a new one. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to continue on with our number sentence, or our word problem. So, here's the next part of it. It says, if the sun came out on 5 of those days, how many days were all rain. So let me keep this up there for you for a moment. So we just figured out that we had 7 days in March, 7 days in April. You just told me that it's together 14 days. So now I'm saying to you, if 5 of those days were sunny, how many were all rain? What do I have to do? That's right, I have to take those 5 days out, which means I'm subtracting to figure out my answer. So that's why I had you leave the 14 here. So where do I take my 5 from? Can I take it from here? Can I take it from the 4? No, I've got to take my 5 from over here. So I'm going to cross off 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to box what I have left here. So I have 5 here, plus I still have 4 on the outside. 5 plus 4 is what? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 is my answer here, okay? So again, we had 14 days that we said were rainy, but then all of a sudden they were like, wait a minute, 5 of those days were sunny. So if we took the 5 sunny days out, that leaves us with how many were really rainy. Now, let's fill in our number bond. So this time we don't know our 2 parts. We know that we started with 14 D for days. We now know that 5 of those days had sun. So we're trying to figure out how many were left for rain. So again, we can punch 14 and count backwards 5, or I can punch 5 and count up to 14, but because there's such a big gap, I'm going to actually punch the 14 and count backwards 5. So we got 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. And again, you'll notice that I got 9 as my answer, which matches right here. Now, let's look at our number sentence. How many did we start with in the beginning? We started with 14. And then we crossed off 5 of them, which left us with 9. So the question is, how many days were rain? We can say there were 9 days. So what we just did was we completed 2 word problems that were connected. So what you had to do is you had to find the answer to the first one to be able to go on to the second part and complete the second one. Hang on, we've got more for you. For part 2, what I want to do is I want to review a little something with you. So we've learned lots of different ways to come up with an answer for a problem. We've learned to punch the number out and count up. We've learned to break a number apart in tens and ones. We've also learned how to make another number a 10 to begin to add. That's what I'm going to actually review with you today, because we're going to actually be building on top of that. So I want to make sure that you understand how to do it first. So let's take a look at 9 plus 5. What we're going to try to do is make a 10 to add, because we know adding 10 to anything is a lot easier. So if I said to you, what's 9 plus 5, you're going to have to stop and think about it. But if I said, what's 10 plus 5, you know right away it's 15. Because you know 10 5 is 15, 10 6 is 16, and so on. So let's take a look here and see what we can do. So we know we need to bring this 9 up to a 10 to add. But what we need to do is we need to take something from the 5. So what I want you to do is I want you to put a caret underneath the 5, okay? Now, we need to say, how many does that 9 need to make a 10? And if you said 1, you're absolutely right, because we know 9 and 1 is a friend of 10. Now, we know that we have to take this 1 from someplace, so we're going to go 5 minus 1. So 1 less than 5 is 4. So we know 1 plus 4 is 5, or I can do it backwards. 4 plus 1 is 5. So now I no longer have a 5, I have a 1 and a 4, which is basically the same thing. I'm just kind of trading it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle my friend of 10, because I know 9 plus 1 equals 10. And I'm not done there, because now I have to take that 10 and add it to the number I didn't use, which is the 4. And we all know 10 4 is 14, right? So 10 plus 4 is 14. Not bad, right? Now let's take a look at my next one. My next one is 8 plus 7. Now, what I'm going to do is try to bring this 8 up to a 10. Well, where do I get the amount to get that up to a 10? From the 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the 7. Now, here's where you need to know your friends of 10. 8 plus something equals 10. What is that something? Yes, it's 2. So I know 2 goes here. But here's where it gets tricky. How do I know what goes here? Well, I could take that 7 and count backwards 2. So I can go 7, 6, 5. The number I landed on is 5. So I don't have a 7 anymore. I have a 2 and I have a 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle my friend of 10 and I'm going to say 8 plus 2 equals 10. But I'm not done there. I have to now take that 10 and add it to the number I didn't use, which is this 5. And 10, 5 equals 15. So remember how I told you it's so important to know your friends of 10? It continues to be important because in your lesson today, what we're going to be doing is now we're going to be using two two-digit numbers to bring the next one up to a 10. So nothing's going to change as far as how you do it. The numbers are just going to be bigger. So pay close attention to the next section. So here's our lesson for today. Now, I want you to pay close attention, just like I said in the last part. We're going to be looking at the number sentence 19 plus 15. Now, I hope you notice that it looks very close to what we did in the last problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to, in this case, we're going to break the 15 down, because the 15 is the smaller number, into 10s and 1s. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do it differently over here by doing the make a 10 way. Okay? So let's do it. We have 15. So we're going to break that down into a 10 and 5. Good. So 10, 5 we know is 15. So what we're going to do is we're going to circle our two-digit numbers. So we have 19 plus 10. Or I could say, what is 10 more than 19? So if I take a look, here's 19. Remember yesterday what we did was we made one jump down to add 10. So 10 more than 19 is 29. So what we're going to do is we're going to write 29 here. But I'm not done there, because I'm going to write 29 down here, and I have to add it to that number I didn't use yet, which is 5. So how do I figure that out? Well, you can punch 29 and count up 5. 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. So 34 would be our answer. But I want to talk you through some other mental math. So, what if I said to you, what is 30 plus 5? You're going to go, oh my gosh, 30 plus 5 is 35. So if you know 30 plus 5 is 35, then you must know that 29, which is 1 less than 30, 29 plus 5 has to be 1 less, which is 34. So listen to it. 30 plus 5 is 35. 29 plus 5 is 34, 1 less. So do you see how your brain's going to start to work? You have to really look at these numbers, and you have to make connections between them. Let's take a look now. So this was the 10s and 1s way, and I'm going to write that, I guess I'll write that right here. So this is 10s and 1s. And over here, we're going to make a 10, okay? So let's take a good look. Now, I know that this number here is the number I'm going to try to bring up to the nearest 10. Now, remember, when I said that to you before, I wanted you to make sure that you knew these are your 10s. This row, this column here are your 10s. So, if I have the number 19, the number I want to bring it up to is 20. That's the closest in the 10 column. So, in order to bring this up to 20, how many do I need to give it? That's right, just 1. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to break it down. Now I'm going to give it 1 to come over here. But here's my question. What is 1 less than 15? Yeah, it's 14. Okay? So now think about it. I could have said 15 minus 1, or I could have said 1 less than 15, which is 14. Okay? Now, I don't have 15 anymore, do I? I have a 1 and I have a 14. So I'm going to circle, this is still going to be considered a friend of 10. Because even if I covered this up, you know 9 plus 1 is 10, right? And one 10 plus another 10, it should be 20. So we're going to write 19 plus 1, and that's going to give us our 20. But we're not done. Now we got to bring the 20 down here and add 14 to it. Now, how are you going to do that? Well, again, remember, we're going to match our 10s with our 10s, our 1s with our 1s. So I have 2 10s and I have 1 10. That gives me 3 10s because 2 plus 1 is 3. My 1s are not going to change, are they? Because I had none here, but I have 4 here. 4 plus 0 is 4. So I have an answer of 34. It's the same answer I got here. So this is what we call a make a 10. So what we're doing is, again, giving you 2 different ways to do the same problem. One might like one way, another person might like another way. It's just a way for you to get to answer the problem. And it's important that you show your work. By showing your work, it gives your teacher a way to look into how you're thinking about the problem. So it's really, really important that you show your work. Now, hold on, and then we're going to go over the homework with you. For your homework today, you're going to have page number 95 and 96. Now, they really, really helped you out on these pages because they really broke down the numbers for you. And they actually did most of the problems for you for the first 2 problems on each page. So you're kind of lucky there. So there's not a lot of problems, but these problems might take you just a little bit longer to get into your brains. So let's take a look at page 95. So this is 95. What I'm going to do with you is problem F for both pages. So on 95, letter F, page 96, letter F. So this way here on page 95, what they're looking for you to do is break the number down into 10s and 1s. Okay? Remember that, 10s and 1s. If you don't remember, read the directions. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to break this smaller number down into 10s and 1s. So 16 is 10, 6. Good job. So we're going to put a 10 here and a 6 here, right? Because remember, it wants to be closer to the other 2-digit number. We're then going to put a circle around those 2 numbers. And they actually gave that to you, 19 plus 10 more. So we know if we close our eyes and think of that column, it goes 9, 19, you got it, 29. So 10 more than 19 is 29. If you can't figure that out and you can't visualize it and see it in your mind, what I want you to do is go, okay, I have 1 10 here and 1 10 here, which is 2 10s, and my 1s didn't change because I have 9 here but none here. So that gives me a 9. But I'm not done there. I have to now bring that 29 down to the next line and add it to the number that I didn't use. In this case is a 6. So you're going to punch 29 and count up 6. So we've got 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. So my answer here is 35. So remember, you're breaking it down into 10s and 1s. And like I said, they actually did that for you for every one of the problems. They helped you out with that, okay? Now, flip the page. We're going to go to page 96 now. So on page 96, again, I chose letter F to work with. So what they want you to do here is they want you now to make a 10. So remember, we're bringing another number up to the closest 10. So if we look at these 2 numbers, which one is closer to 20? That's right, 18 is closer, so that's the number we're going to bring up. So what they did for you is they broke down 17 into 15 and 2, because they said, oh, you need to give 18 2 more to make it 20. And let's check that. 18, 19, 20, right? And if I cover the 1, I know 8 and 2 is a friend of 10. So now I want you to cross off the 17 because we don't have 17 anymore. We have 15 and we have 2. So I want you to go ahead and circle your friend of 10, and that gives you 18 plus 2. So what that did, remember, that brings it up to the next 10, which is going to be a 20. Now the way to look at that also is this. I'm going to cover up my 10s. What is 8 ones plus 2 ones? Right, it's 10. So what's 10 plus another 10? 10 plus 10 is 20. Do you see how I did that? Now I'm not done. I'm going to bring the 20 down here, and I have to add it to the number I didn't use, which is the 15. Again, I have 2 10s here, right? So here's my number 15. I know that my ones are not going to change. My ones are staying the same because I didn't add any ones to it. But I had 1 10 here and I have 2 10s here. 2 plus 1 more is 3. So your answer is going to be 35. I hope this helps. Please take your time while you're doing this because, again, you can get a little bit tripped up, and I don't want that to happen. So remember, page 95, you're doing the 10s and 1s. Page 96, you're making a 10. If you have any problems, please let us know, and make sure that your parents take a picture of it and send it in to your teacher. Have a good one.